When it comes to taking care of aging parents, it can be an emotional roller coaster. But the finances involved can be draining for families. Carolee McGrath sat down with the chair of the Estate Planning and Elder Law Department at Bacon Wilson Law Firm in Springfield to learn more about how to plan for long-term care of a loved one.
In Massachusetts, the average is around currently about $11,000 a month.
In a nursing home.
In a nursing home.
So that's an overwhelming number if you have parents who are aging, who are ill, for people who are still raising their children and also caring for their parents as well. Where do you even begin to try to assist your parents?
Well, the first part is to get them to start understanding that there are things that they can do. There's not a lot of options, but some of them are very aggressive. And people have to be willing to part with assets and give up control of assets in order to protect themselves, because if not, they have to be somewhat impoverished before Medicaid will cover their costs of care.
So talk a little bit about that. What is the income level, or what are your assets, the maximum amount of money you can have before Medicaid kicks in?
Knowing that there are some exceptions in the rules, the basic rules are if you are single, you can have $2,000, and that's it. So you have to spend down to $2,000 before the state and government will pay for your care. So you have to liquidate your IRA, the cash value of your life insurance, your house. You've got to basically divest all of your assets and spend them down before you can qualify, unless you're done planning ahead of time. If you're married, the spouse at home is allowed to have $123,600, which changes every year. And then the spouse in the nursing home can have $2,000. But they can also have one principal residence that has to be worth somewhat less than $800,000.
So what do you recommend for people as they start looking at this? Obviously, you want to start planning before you get to that crisis point, correct?
Correct. So even if you're married and you can have more assets, the income is treated differently than the assets. So if you're married and you're in the home, which we call the community spouse, he or she is allowed to have unlimited amounts of income. Whereas a spouse in the nursing home, all of their income has to be spent on their care. So there's an asset test and there's the income, and they're different. The trick is to give away assets or do some protection of assets 5 years and 1 day before somebody becomes ill.
Right, and how do you know that? So if you were...
I forgot the crystal ball today.
Right, so if you were to instruct somebody my age, right? How to help your parents or how to start planning. I mean, first of all, it's a terribly uncomfortable conversation to have. But second, where do you even start with that?
The first step really is to get your parents to understand that they've worked really hard. And we ask our clients, if they come to us, who would you rather give your money to? Uncle Sam, the nursing home, or your family? And if they have the right answer and say their family, then we say, okay, here are the choices of what you can do. And we give them the laundry list. And then we check off the things that they don't like the most. And then they're left with what's available for them. Then they have to make the tough decision, because one decision is do nothing and take their chances, which isn't usually a good decision, but it's a decision that some people take.
So if you transfer or gift a house into your kid's name, right, that also can open up a whole can of worms if there's fighting within the family, correct?
Right, and I'm a big fan of the deed with a life estate, where the children own the remainder interest in the house and the parents own the life estate, which means that parents can't be thrown out, and they get to use, occupy, live in the property, and they pay all the expenses. But when they pass away, the kids get it without any tax in most cases. There's no probate, and if they stay healthy for 5 years, then they can have a big celebration and say, well, they beat the system because they made the 5-year look back. But if the children should pass away, get divorced, get sued, or file bankruptcy, that's an asset that's really the child's. And it could be attached by their creditor, and that could cause a problem for the parents.
What about long-term care insurance? Who would be best suited to look into that?
Everybody should look at it. Some people can't afford it, and some people won't be able to get it because they're not healthy enough. So in your case, your parents might be too old to get long-term care insurance because it's going to be so expensive, or maybe they don't have the health qualifications to get it. you being younger can afford long-term care insurance, but if I had my say for you, I would have you look at a new policy. It's called a hybrid policy. It's a combination life insurance, long-term care policy. So if you buy this policy and you never go to a nursing home, there's a guaranteed death benefit for the kids. But if you get sick and need home care or long-term care, you can access some of the death benefit while you're alive and use that money to pay for your care if you're not willing to give away assets. So it's a great product, and it's relatively inexpensive as you're younger.
What about for families whose parents were in the military? There are also other avenues to look at as well, correct?
Correct. If you're a veteran who's otherwise then dishonorably discharged, then you have the benefits of something called aid in attendance, which can give you money if you need money to stay at home or be in a facility such as an assisted living facility. If you're so ill that you need long-term care, we're very lucky in Western Mass to have the Holyoke Soldiers Home available for anybody who's a veteran. The spouses can't go there unless they're veterans, but any veteran can go there.
Okay.
And that's a great opportunity, but there's a limited number of spots available there.
Talk to me a little bit about the conversations you must have with clients about even having this conversation and trying to think. And I know you also teach a course on this, so we could go 7 hours on this segment. But this is a difficult issue to face, in families.
Usually it's the children who contact me very often and say, what can we do for our parents? Unfortunately, I have to view that situation as the parents as my clients, so I need to talk to them and tell them what the options are. One of my favorite stories is I was interviewed by the New York Times by a writer, and he couldn't talk to his parents. So at the end of the article, we wrote and said, well, we hope that mom and dad are reading this article. And then he sent the article to them. So sometimes you have to just do that. I've had children who have bought their parents a gift certificate for legal services at Christmas to get them to get started on the plan. And if that works, whatever it takes sometimes to get them going. The problem is if they never do anything, then their assets are at risk and the 5-year clock doesn't start ticking. When I first started practicing, it was a 2-year look-back period. Then it went to 2.5 years, and then 3. Now it's 5, and it's not going to get any shorter.
Right, so you just have to be prepared, and you really have to start planning long before you really think you need to.
Right, and as I tell my clients, they all tell me that time goes faster as they get older.
Sure does.
So the next 5 years will go faster.
Yeah.
So they should start doing it now because it will take less time.